As many of you know, the impact on the recent tax increases on equestrian people has been quite severe. And as a result, we've had a number of people taking a closer look at where's that money going. So the proposed budget that you've put forward, there's a 3.7% increase in the taxable rateables, but your tax rate is staying constant. So you're using all of that increase to spend more money on, yes, good things, but nevertheless, if you look at what the Board of Education has done, they've spent more money, but they've used the fact that there's an increase in rateables to also decrease their tax rate as opposed to keeping it constant. So the new rateables include new construction, but it also includes increase in assessment on existing construction in some cases. And so we would appreciate if you would consider trying to reduce the cost that you show in there so that you could do a reduction in the tax rate and not spend the whole 3.7% that you'll be getting. And the other topic on the budget, I definitely appreciate the work that you all do as volunteers, helping you do a great deal of wonderful things for us, for the whole town, as do other volunteers in the town. It was mentioned about the senior center, there's the firemen, first aid, and many other volunteers. And I do see in the budget that there's some amount of pay that goes to elected officials, which makes sense because you've got expenses that need to be covered. What I don't understand is the $30,000 per person health care that if I'm reading this correctly, that two people are taking. If to me, I would hope you would reconsider, those of you who are doing that, and use the money that's being paid for expenses, et cetera, but even though it's available to you, it's $60,000 that are coming from the taxpayers for health care coverage. Thank you.
Thank you. So first of all, because Mr. Spindell offered some comments, I'd like to address them. I thought now was the appropriate time to address them. So a couple of things that you brought up, and I won't go in any particular order. One of the items that you brought up was about certain governing body members taking health care benefits. I am one of them. I've never shied away from that. It was a personal decision that I've made. I'm not going to speak on behalf of one or more other governing body members that do it. I've never hidden behind the fact that I've done it. It was allowed by law. There were personal reasons why I've chosen to do it, which I would be glad to discuss with you offline if you were interested in hearing them. I do understand the concern, and I'm not naive to it. I'm very appreciative to the residents of Howell that I was able to receive that benefit. I feel that I worked very hard for that benefit, but I do understand the concern. And again, that's my own personal explanation for that. But since you brought it up, I thought I owed you an answer for that. On the budget itself, I would like to make some comments, and I've been to your meeting, and I very much appreciate what it is that you're trying to do through your tax group. I believe it's actually one of the only ways that we're actually going to get a handle on some of the things that are going on. And yes, the people in Equestria are some of the people who have experienced the most negative outcomes as far as taxation. Clearly, those issues have been because of your assessed values and other issues like that, which we're not going to go through and debate today because we're not going to resolve that today. But I do understand what you're saying, and I'd like to put it in a little bit of context because I've received quite a few phone calls and emails, and people are asking, well, all of this money that's coming in, you're getting more because of these assessments going up, and all you're doing is you're just taking more money and you're spending more money. And I certainly understand that. I think we're spending money smart, and I think there's a difference there. I think some of the things that we're doing, the budget, the amount to be raised by taxation increased by about $909,000. So people have a right to ask me, what am I doing for $909,000? Just because your assessments are going up and revenue is coming in, it doesn't mean we're just spending money frivolously. I don't believe you were here when that took place, but we had many conversations about what we were going to do with our debt. We made decisions about increasing some debt so that we can do more capital improvement projects throughout the town, and we were going to do them in a way that we were going to take advantage of lower interest rates and make things better for the town, take advantage of doing some projects, some things that were sorely overlooked, and really make some improvements in the town. We weren't able to do that before for two reasons. One was the recession, and the other one is because we just didn't have the money at the time. Of the $909,000 that we're actually increasing the budget to be raised by taxation, $795,000 is because of increased debt payments for 2016. I actually think that's a good thing to be doing with the extra money that we're taking in. We're not kicking the can down the road anymore. We're not issuing bond anticipation notes over and over and over again. We're actually paying down principal. Some of the principal we're paying down is on things that were bonded for long before any of us were even elected officials. So the fact that we're actually permanently financing millions of dollars of debt and doing it at a time when we actually do have additional revenues, to me, that seems the right time to do that. So I can appreciate that people are saying that they're paying more, but I think if there's a time to pay more and something to pay more for, that seems like it seems like it's the right time, and it seems it's the right thing to pay down. We're not hiring 20 new employees. We're not building new buildings. We're not putting swing sets all over town. We're paying down our debt. And I think that's a very strong statement. It's something that we started last year, and now we're actually starting to pay it back. I think that's a really good thing to do. Additionally, we are putting some staff on, and there were numerous conversations about why we wanted to do that. Some of those staff include police officers. We're still way down with the number of officers that we had before the recession started, when some of the things that Mrs. Dixell brought up, when we weren't able to hire staff because we couldn't afford to pay the results of the tax appeals, and we had a moratorium on hiring. That hurt the town. Crime went up. Some other things creeped their way into town, some drugs and some other issues. There was an effect from that. And there is a correlation with the number of employees that we put on as employees and put them on the streets as police officers. It does keep us safe, and that was something that I pledged a commitment to in January, and I'm glad that we were able to put a couple extra officers on to be able to do that. Although I understand that raising those taxes is not an easy thing to do, the last 2 years we did not do that. For the largest majority of our residents, where assessments increased less than the township average, we actually lowered municipal property taxes 2 years in a row. Again, I understand that that wasn't a question because your property assessments went up higher than the township average. I understand and acknowledge that. But for 2/3 of the town, that did not take place. So this year, if you look at the $909,000 increase and you just do it on an average basis with slightly less than 20,000 residential properties, the percentage that is now the burden on the residential property owners is now lower than it's ever been before, because we do have commercial ratables. So for people who say putting those commercial ratables on Route 9 didn't pay a dividend, they are paying a dividend. That means that on an average basis, a average Howell Township homeowner is paying less than $39 a year for taxes to do all of the things that I just said, most importantly paying down that debt. I'm a property owner as well in town, and I pay taxes as well. And when somebody asks me, why do I feel comfortable paying that $40 a month, a year in extra taxes, and I can reduce our debt payment so that my kids continue to live here in the next 10 or 20 years, that's important to me, and I think that's worthwhile. So I think that is a good use of the money. I think we've done a good job over the past couple of years to make sure that we were aware of what we did with our budget and with our taxes. Since 2010, our budget has gone up by $4.6 million, but the amount to be raised by taxation has only increased $2.9 million. So we haven't always taken advantage of additional revenue that was coming into the town. We have put it back. This year, we're taking that money and we're applying it to debt. I think that's a good thing to do. The percentage of the overall budget to be raised by taxation prior to the recession was about 52%. It peaked up as high as 57% in the middle of the recession, and we're back down to 52% again. So that tells me that we've completed the cycle post-recession. So all of the things that we spoke about with the tough decisions that we had to make during 2011 and 12 and 13, we're now to the point where we can start doing smart things with our budget, and I think that's what we're doing. So I'm proud of what we're trying to do with the budget and the things that we've accomplished, and I thank the staff for doing it. I do appreciate the additional $40 a year that the residents are going to pay. I hope they understand why we're doing it. I think it's important to lay a good foundation for the future. And I would also like to note that other areas where we do have the opportunity to put money back into the pockets of our residents, we've done that. We've done it 2 years in a row by lowering the sewer payment. In 2 years, we've lowered that by $160 a year. So I think this governing body has practiced what it's preached with fiscal responsibility, and when we have the opportunity to put money back in your pocket, we've done that. This year, I feel pretty strongly that the decision that we made with that increased spending, particularly the nearly $800,000 of pay down on our debt, I think that's something that is the right thing to do, and it's an easy decision for me. So I hope I've addressed your concerns, and again, if you have any other questions, you're welcome to ask me anytime in the future, but that's where I am with the budget.